Greetings and a warm welcome on this 94th day of January. This is the 10 o'clock news from the EV Café, brought to you this week by our newest partner, Churchill Insurance. Oh yes! And I'm John Curtis. Today I'm joined by our special reporters, Sam, Sarah, Paul, and Johnny Berry! Yay!
Oh my goodness me.
Who?
Well, now, we want to hear Johnny speak.
He's on mute.
Yeah, but that's not the button, that's his throat.
Johnny has lost his voice, but he's made the effort to get online. So a big up for Johnny Berry here. Are you trying to say something, Johnny, or no? All that effort and still no use. Anyway,
we genuinely can't hear you, Johnny, either whether you're on mute or not. So there you go.
Anyway, grab a cuppa, plug in for the latest in clean transport and sustainability news. We're looking at these stories today, how the government has made progress on decarbonising its central car fleet. Tesla have slashed their prices. EVs and ICEs do similar average mileages. Johnny Berry at Optimise Prime. What was the Optimus Prime? And finally, van news for you filthy only vans fans. But first, Wednesday was a massive day for us as Direct Line Group said, oh yes, announcing our partnership with Churchill Insurance Group to be their go-to source for impartial and objective support on electric vehicles. We'll support their staff and business customers as they transition to EVs. A massive day for us, a huge achievement for Steve Williams, the value lead for EV at Direct Line Group, and Paul Kirby, our commercial guru. Paul, great job.
Hey, listen, what a wonderful partnership that we've begun to form with these guys. They're so passionate about what they want, and you know, the engagement with all of us over the time that we've been chatting with them about this partnership has been amazing. So I'm really excited that this partnership says so much about where we're going. Some great data and insight that's going to come from the guys as well. And yeah, what a wonderful partnership we're going to have. And you got to love a nodding dog, right?
Oh, yes. Now then, Ian Kerr's asked if we could just drop the volume of the music a little bit, producer Joe, because he can't hear what's going on. Anyway, the government are on track for the fleet to be zero emission by 2027. The government says it expects to meet its 2027 target for its central car fleet to be fully zero emission. It revealed yesterday that a quarter of all its cars have been switched to ultra low emission vehicles. Technology and Decarbonisation Minister Jesse Norman said as the UK moves towards a cleaner transport network, the government is doing its bit with over 25% of its central car fleet being battery powered 3 months earlier than planned. Mr. Norman continued, it's critical that progress in decarbonising fleets is matched elsewhere. We'll continue to forge ahead to complete the switch by 2027 and help make the UK a world leader in decarbonisation. Now, in the week that British Volt have gone into administration, really, Minister, does the government understand irony at all? What do you think, Sam?
Well, I just reading that, John, I don't wish to be a skeptic or anything, but ultra low emission vehicles makes me raise my eyebrow as to what that really means. And similarly, battery powered. It's not pure electric, is it? Let's be honest. So that's there's a little bit of greenwashing going on in there. I would hasten to add, I think, to the overall. So whilst it's great that they've got initiatives and all that, but what does that really mean? Are they just using the right words at the right time to try and fudge it? So I'd love to know a little bit more about what that actually means as far as breakdown of proper electric vehicles. And there is some degree of irony, isn't there, of course, of British Volt, which was, we spoke about on the webinar the other day, but I think there's lots of lessons that hopefully that are learned probably behind closed doors, both from a commercial management point of view, but also from a government contractual relationship point of view. I hope that isn't dead. I mean, British Volt may be, but I hope the factory isn't. Because we need at least 4 or 5 of them in this country. So I'm hoping that that's not the end of the story.
But I think there's been an announcement this week, Sarah, about a new battery gigafactory in Oxfordshire from an Australian investor who's looking to put that in pretty pronto. That's got to be good news for the UK.
Yeah, one of the other comments about the British vote was the loss of supply chain jobs, estimated between 5,000 and 8,000, and just such a shame for British industry. So if that Oxfordshire one happens, fantastic. As for the previous headline with the sort of celebrating hitting 25%, that was a target that was set back in 2018. So,
Yep.
25% of all local authorities, 25% of all government vehicles, but that even included things like army, police and fire. So I can see why the target was low then, but there's no excuse now, not when whole fleets are achieving it far faster than they ever thought. So let's see, let's not allow that greenwash in.
Well, let's go and get some more information, some statistics. We'll go back to the government and we'll ask them for some clarification on those numbers. Moving on, Tesla has slashed its prices, and price cuts applied to the new Tesla models risk undermining the values of used electric vehicles in an already volatile market. Tesla has slashed the price of its Model 3 and Model Y by up to £8,000 last week. The move's expected to help it compete in an increasingly competitive EV market in the UK. Shortly after the announcement, CAP HPI revealed that used EV values are declining 4 times faster than their diesel-powered equivalents. Steve Tigar, or Tigger as I like to call him, CEO and founder of Love Electric, said cuts on this scale could undermine the value of second-hand cars, which have to be priced significantly cheaper than new models to attract buyers. He predicts the move could trigger Trigger and Tigger, brilliant, a price war among car makers and weaken the value of all used electric cars. For me, that has to be a good thing, because the price of new is coming down, the price of used is coming down. That's got to be right, hasn't it, Sam?
Yeah, you come to me again. Yeah, I mean, I despair. I mean, people complain about the electric vehicles being too expensive, and then one of the biggest manufacturers in the world reduces their prices, and everyone complains that it's going to be detrimental. It drives me nuts. But yeah, I mean, it's great that they're able to bring prices down. And yes, it might have. Tesla are already a massive influence in the whole marketplace, in the same way as iPhone is to the mobile phone industry. And then they make a decision, things change. But this is a positive thing in every which way you look at it. And we're still at embryonic early technology. So there will be obsolescence in the original generations, and people aren't going to want those as much because their batteries aren't as good and the range isn't as far. But that shouldn't be pinned with something which is really positive. That Tesla, massive, the biggest contributor to EV registrations in the UK for as long as I can remember, are reducing their prices. That's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with it. And the people that are complaining they got high prices in December and haven't got and have lost out. I get it. I would be annoyed too, but there is no other option. You can't taper it. So it's just tough luck. And ultimately, it's a good news for the industry.
Paul, does that feed into the commercial vehicle world? I was wondering whether vans are equally impacted with that reduction in the overall cost.
So what we're seeing is a premature reduction of residual values in vans, because the prices at the list price are not coming down and are not realigning. In fact, discounts are going and all that sort of stuff. There is definite concern over the residual value of used vans, because they're not meeting the need to sort of get to a level where it makes it easier to lease or run over a longer period. So again, one of the things that's happening in the car market is affecting what's happening in the van market, and they are two separate markets with their separate ecosystems, but one is influencing the other excessively, in my opinion, and it does damage that midterm cost effectiveness of vans.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good joke from Michael Barton. All batteries need negatives as well as positives. Good golly gosh. Anyway, let's move on. The average mileage of electric company cars is virtually the same as the distance travelled by internal combustion engine equivalents, according to new data from Epix. For vehicles registered between October 2018 and October 2020, electric vehicles covered on average 17,774 miles, whilst petrol and diesel company cars travelled 17,222 miles. So EVs are actually driving further than their petrol and diesel comparators. The data is taken from the company's OneLink service network platform, which surveys over 4 million company vehicles. Charlie Brooks, growth director at Epix, said, because of the perceived compromises in range and recharging inherent in EVs, there has long been a widespread assumption among fleets that they attract low mileage users. Our figures mean that myth is busted, and we adore a busted myth, don't we, Sarah?
We do. And actually, I thought it was the opposite. I've always thought that people were driving more in electric cars once they got them. So they do this in commercial land. The low hanging fruit is the lower vehicles, the lower mileage vehicles at the time. But for passenger vehicles, absolutely not. People are completely blasting through their usual mileage. I'm not surprised at all.
Brilliant news that actually what another myth bites the dust.
Yay!
And it's a really helpful myth to bust, actually, because vans typically are being used considerably less. As Sarah alluded to there, the low-hanging fruit, the low mileage, actually that impacts the total cost of that vehicle. And they're actually much better getting up to the normal mileage, 20,000 miles a year, rather than trying to do 5,000, because you're minimizing the benefits. The benefits are in the maintenance costs and the energy cost. So it's much better to run them for longer. So hopefully that will feed into the van side of the world as well.
I also think it's because people plug in their car outside their house. So they're sort of like, oh, just hop in the car. I think there's a lot of that hopping in electric cars. Oh, it's fine. I'll just take the car. It's not polluting anymore. You know, that sort of mindset around it being not so polluting means you're probably more likely to do that. We know that public transport patronage has gone down as a result of this EV influx.
Yeah, we always knew that it was important to use EVs because the low-hanging fruit meant that, you know, you weren't risking stuff. Now we know that those vehicles can go further. It's time to sweat the assets. And Sam, you're the man when it comes to sweating our assets.
Yeah, not much more to add. I mean, Paul's point on total cost of ownership is a big one, because, you know, with the challenges that we've got and with electricity prices versus petrol, the total cost of ownership is not as good as maths as it was a year ago, and it will improve. The energy prices will come down and it will get better. But the longer miles that people are doing in their EVs, the better the maths will be. Whilst you were doing the intro on that one, I checked how many miles I've done in the last 9 months, and it far exceeds 17,000 already.
Yeah,
so yeah, some of us in this call, I think, are probably.
Well, I've done 17,000 in 6 months. Whoops.
Yeah, I've done nearly 19 in 9 months as well. So we're hopefully pushing that average up.
And Paul's flown many hundreds of thousands. The world's biggest trial of commercial electric vehicles has come to an end and demonstrated how fleet operators can overcome barriers such as cost and energy demand through digitization and new product offerings. Optimize Prime began in July 2021 and has been led by Hitachi Europe and electricity distributor UK Power Networks. The trial saw over 8,000 electric vehicles from Centrica, Uber, and a large UK depot-based parcel carrier, remaining nameless, take to the roads across the UK, supported by distribution networks including Scottish and Southern Electricity and partners Hitachi Vantara and Novuna Vehicle Solutions. You may know somebody who works there. We rarely see him. The trials include depot, home and on-the-road charging. With road vehicles being the biggest producer of UK's transport emissions, it's clear that individuals and businesses need to make the move to more sustainable transport, said John Wybrow, Optimise Prime business lead at Hitachi Europe. Key findings from this survey were that EV models can cover the typical range requirements for all types of fleets, making electrification feasible and achievable. To enable the private hire EV transition, a London borough such as Tower Hamlets alone will need 3,200 more chargers by 2025. In the long term, the trials highlight how EV fleets can generate revenue and support network operators by offering turn-down services where fleets can be charged only when needed and stop charging during peak period times on the electricity network. Digitalization can allow for charging to be forecast by fleet network operators to help manage demand at peak times on the network. This has got to be good news coming out from this, Sam, yeah?
Yeah, it is. Both myself, Sarah, and Johnny was chairing the final presentation of this the world's largest fleet appraisal project just this week. So it was great to get everyone in the room. I think that it's really good news. I think also that there's a report now that people can read and learn and understand more about this. On the one hand, some of the stuff that I heard this week, I was doing 12 years ago. But on the other hand, it's good that the three of the largest fleets in the UK, you know, have all combined together to be able to disseminate information in a more public setting. So yeah, it's good news. It's nothing for some of us. It's not new news, but ultimately it will help, hopefully, guide other people to understand and make more informed decisions about their charging as well as their driving. Because one thing it does highlight is the need for smart charging, intelligent dynamic charging in these settings, so we don't all have to throw our hands in the air and worry about the fact there isn't enough power. And actually, there is lots of other ways of managing fleets and still be electrified in a short period of time.
Good man.
Sam, I think that's the important thing is the education, right? So this program, Optimized Prime, it isn't anything new, but it is dedicated on making information free release to all so that we can all learn. And I think that's the key benefit of this piece of research. We've been doing this a long time, but there's still a lot of ignorance out there, and we really need to change that.
I found it really heartening. They were saying the hardest thing has been, though, communicating it through the channels. So, everybody who sat in that room was an expert. Everybody who sat in that room had been invited because they were part of the 4-year project or knew something about fleet. So the summary for me was that flexibility can get you so far. Clever technology can help you to manage your fleet. But actually, it still boils down to that waiting time for grid connection. So planning ahead is going to be your crux. And everybody since has been on my LinkedIn saying, oh, local authorities need to do more. It's down to local authority to share this information. And I just raised my hand and said, how is that the local authority's problem? That's either got to be central government's problem or private industry's problem. Everyone just assumes that the local authority can contact everybody within their district and click a finger and make them change. It really shouldn't boil down to local authority.
Local authorities can't necessarily get the messages out, but we can.
Yes,
now, Paul, get your van froth on, my friend, because we've got only vans coming up. Shorter lead times for some electric vans provides an opportunity for fleets to make the switch, according to the Association of Fleet Professionals. Paul Hollick, chair at the industry body, explained that some members were reporting that electric vans were currently available with significantly shorter lead times than diesel equivalents. Electric van production is beginning to ramp up quite quickly, and while the numbers remain relatively small in overall industry terms, this appears to be creating what are, in current terms, relatively short lead times that can be measured in months, he said. As with electric cars, there's a strong possibility that manufacturers are channeling huge resources into electric van production in order to meet corporate emissions targets, and this could additionally lead to comparatively strong availability over the next few years. Paul, yay! More vans!
Yes, absolutely, and it is really exciting. But it's exciting at a time where the J curve has got a crook in it. It's not quite going where we wanted it to because of confidence, because of the challenges, because of TCO and all of those total cost of ownership, all of those good things. And it is a slight concern. I mean, the availability might be a fact that people aren't taking them as quickly as we kind of anticipated. But the key is, and Paul mentioned this at the end of it, government need to step in. They've been incentivizing the car market with benefit in kind taxation. There needs to be a similar incentive, a similar push into the for the vans as well. There's talk of a scrappage scheme in London, so that's going to be good, and we're going to see additional value vehicles costing a lot less than they have in the past. That's all good news. We just need to double down. We don't need to take it for granted or be over optimistic. There's got to be hard graft over the next 12 months.
Any final thoughts from you, Sam and Sarah?
No, just agree with Paul. I think we get these bits of information, but there's typically a lag. We're starting to feel now, or hear now rather, that the OEMs restrictions around their wiring looms and the semiconductors and all that kind of stuff is starting to release itself, and they're starting to ramp back up again. And clearly, it's the same with vans. So there'll be a bit of a period until such thing, that kink that Paul mentioned. Hopefully, we're back on the straight and narrow, or the exponential curve, or whatever, J curve, whatever you want to call it, in the next few months. But it'll take a little while, unfortunately. But with things as they are, probably that's not necessarily such a bad thing. Might give us charge point operators a chance to put a few more chargers in the ground to try and support these vehicles coming through. But ultimately, it's all good news, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Just want to thank everybody who's joined us today. Darren Anvon has been very, very mobile on the chat box. So is Michael Barton. Simon Brace, good morning. Richard Markey, hi. Have a great weekend, everybody. If you have any clean transport, PR or news stories you'd like us to cover, please send them to us at hello@evcafe.org. Until next Friday, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from them. This has been an EV Cafe production brought to you this week by Churchill. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Other sustainability news services are available, but this is just
fun.
The EV Cafe News is regulated by Big Stuart Interval, Sparky from My Energy, Tucker from the AA, installed by EV Civils, monitored by Geotab, and insured by Churchill. The news is performed by professionals. Please do not try this unless you can bounce higher than Bob Dylan cuddling Tigger. We are the EV Cafe, supporting the transition to clean transport. Until next Friday. Bye.
Bye.
Paul, you can talk now.
No, we can't.
I
We can't.
love it.